back to you, Joe.
Yes. The heat continues across the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, the middle Mississippi Valley, down to the Gulf states and parts of the Southeast, while much of the Northeast had some nice late spring weather. And we've got some action going on in the West with still some remnant rains and winds up in the Northern Rockies and some red flag conditions down in parts of the Southwest. We'll cover that and talk about the weather patterns setting up for the Father's Day weekend here in the eastern United States. Can you say pleasant temperatures and low humidities? All that and more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. Sorry for the delay, folks. That's
I'm
it.
not going to say
No,
anything.
I didn't say it. Sorry for the delay. That's all I'm saying.
I thought I'd serenade you while I was waiting.
I got, to quote Fred Mertz, I got wind of
I
it.
got wind of
I
it.
got wind of it in more ways than one. So, anyhow, looking at things today, Joe, I didn't really see much that really alters the idea of the rest of the week and this coming weekend. What say you on this pressing matter?
Well, I think we may have a possibility, small as it may be, for a shower or thunderstorm after midnight tonight, and there'll be an ongoing threat on Thursday as the humidity starts to climb. On Friday, we'll have a weather front moving through that will still set the stage for a couple of showers. By the end of the day on Friday, humidity will take a noticeable dip, and I think this weekend, Joe, while parts of the country are sweltering with extreme heat and humidity, here is where you need to be if you don't care for that kind of weather. The Northeast, a gusty breeze on Saturday, still a bit breezy on Sunday, blue skies, puffy fair weather clouds, bright sunshine, low humidity, low to mid 70s for a high during the day on Saturday and Father's Day Sunday, and low temperatures falling down into the 50s across much of the region, except in the urbanized areas, which will be close to the 60 come Saturday and Sunday night. So I think the weekend looks grand. The only fly in the ointment will be, again, a little bit of precipitation scattered about here and there, beginning late tomorrow night through Thursday and part of Friday, and also a bit of a climb in the dew point temperatures, warmer and more humid conditions. But we're only going to get a little bitty slice out of what is now being experienced out of the nation's midsection. First time in a decade, Chicago, the Windy City, hit triple digits today. They got to 100 degrees in Chicago today. This comes only a day after they had severe thunderstorms with even tornadic activity in and around the Windy City yesterday. Thunderstorms yesterday, just plain hot for today.
Yeah, and I'm glad I heard you say, for temperatures on the low to mid 70s for highs. I was also leaning on the low end. Oftentimes when I use the digital weather forecast from the Weather Service, especially in the out days, they don't get updated as much as the days that are, the front and center, like the first, second, and third day. Days 4, 5, and 6, they might maybe only get updated once a day. So the temperatures here on the map that I have up, these are Saturday's forecast highs, showing, at least in the coastal plain, pretty much in a range of upper 70s to around 80. Now, this map hasn't changed for 2 days, and I've been on the idea that these numbers are going to be a few degrees lower, and I would agree with you. It's going to be more like lower and middle 70s. There are places in northeast Pennsylvania and on up the Hudson Valley, west of the Hudson, in upstate New York, that are probably going to be maybe, and even into central and northern New England, where we're talking maybe 65 to 70 for highs. And the night, Saturday night into Sunday morning, I'll bring that up on the screen here. I think here it's mostly 50s, warmer urban areas closer to 60. You might be able to shave a degree or so off of these numbers. And there may also be in cold spots not that far north and west of the coast where you're going to see temperatures down in the 40s, particularly upstate New York and up into central and northern New England, mid 40s to around 50. And also, not to forget that cool air actually extends down the Appalachians with temperatures in the 40s going down into parts of western North Carolina, especially in areas of the northern part of North Carolina. The humidity levels are going to drop pretty much up and down the eastern seaboard from Maine to Georgia. This is going to be a really nice, pleasant air mass, and it might be. We just have probably the best weekend of the spring season last weekend, Joe. We're going to put two back to back. When's the first day? Today's the 14th, so summer doesn't come till after Father's Day's done. Correct?
Summer will be next Tuesday in the wee hours of the morning. I think something like 5:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So when most of you wake up on Tuesday, you'll go to bed still in spring on Monday night, and most of you wake up on Tuesday, and voila, it will be summer officially here in the northern hemisphere. But you know what, Joe? Really, we call this the beginning of summer. But if you go to some of those far distant northern climes, like for example, Norway and Sweden and Finland, they don't consider this to be the beginning of summer. They actually call this midsummer. And in a way, they do have a point because on June 21st, the sun will get to its highest position north of the equator. Uh, it'll be shining directly over the Tropic of Cancer. And then after June 21st, the sun begins to depart and starts heading south again, and the days slowly begin to get shorter. So the folks in the far northern regions who have probably noted that the length of the day, the length of daylight has been gradually increasing, slowly but surely, and especially will note that on Tuesday, for some north of the Arctic Circle, there's 24 hours of daylight. After that, the days begin to get shorter. And so they say, well, why are we saying that this is the beginning of something? Why are we saying it's the beginning of summer? It really is for us the middle of the time when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. And now after this, it's all downhill. So they consider June 21st not to be summer, beginning of the summer, but midsummer. Because again, after seems kind of sad to start dwelling on this, but beginning on Tuesday or after Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, the days do indeed start getting shorter, imperceptibly at first, and then slowly but surely you'll begin to notice it. I think you'll start really noticing that the days are getting shorter after we get past the 21st or 22nd of July. Then you start noticing it's getting darker in the evening quicker, and after Tuesday, the days will not grow longer again until just a few days before Christmas. But then why should we dwell on that?
Well, all I know is that actually, I could even say this now because 6 months from now it'll be December 14th, and since I have my Christmas tree up year round, I can simply say, if someone asks me why is your Christmas tree up, I can now say that since it's technically closer to Christmas than it is away from Christmas, that I'm decorating early.
You could say that,
I'm
couldn't you?
I'm a clever sort, yes. So
Yes.
before we get started, so Johnny Quest messaged me and asked me a technical question that took me back about 40 years. So once I got over that trauma, um, so he was asking about theta E, Joe. Theta E. Do you remember dear theta
Oh,
E?
the
Yeah.
theta E in
And
association with showers and
right.
unsettled weather. You're looking at that, yeah.
So basically, Johnny, because I mean, if you could really get pretty technical with this, but you know, I'll lose you, and probably shortly thereafter I'd lose myself. But the bottom line is this: so you've got a parcel of air, right, Joe? You've got a parcel of air. You've got a nice
I
parcel,
do.
right? You have a parcel of
Yeah.
air. So the theta E value, which is by the way in degrees Kelvin, okay, is basically it's another way to try to measure how unstable the atmosphere is. So if I take a parcel of air and I bring it down to the surface and I suck all the moisture out of it, I'm going to come up with a value. Okay. And the bottom line is that whatever that value is, the larger the number, the higher the value, the more unstable the atmosphere is. If I'm bringing down a parcel of air and the temperature of that parcel of air doesn't really rise very much, then it's telling you that the atmosphere is relatively stable. And if it rises a lot, it's telling you that it is unstable. Did I get that right? Not bad after 40 years.
Yes. And not bad at all. My goodness. You could also say that it's typically expressed in degrees Kelvin.
Which I did say
That's not
that.
too many. Yeah, but you know what? I think what we ought to do is we ought to suggest to all of the TV and radio stations that from here on,
Oh, they should do
when you
this.
talk about temperature, you should express it in Kelvin and not degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, we went through the whole rigmarole about 40 years ago when they said we're going to make the transition from Fahrenheit to Celsius, and they started using Celsius. You even saw it on those time and temperature uh, signs. They'd first show the Fahrenheit and then they'd show the Celsius. Confused the hell out of everybody, at least in the United States. They went over to Celsius in Canada. They didn't here in the U.S. But now let's totally confuse everybody and start quoting Kelvin for the daily high and low temperatures.
Well, how do you do wind chill? How are you going to do wind chill in Kelvin? Yeah, you know
Well,
what?
anyway,
They aren't going to accept the fact that yeah, Kelvin's not going to work. Celsius, yeah, the Celsius didn't work. Just never caught on. Going to meters and kilometers and all that. They actually started doing that, if I remember correctly. They tried to start doing that in the late 70s, early 80s, and it just never caught on. So
it never caught on here in the United States. Well, I think the
no.
United States is one of the country in the world, aside from us, that still uses the quote old English methodology of expressing measurements in feet and yards or whatever, and temperature and Fahrenheit. Everybody else is on the metric system. But anyway, theta A typically expressed in degrees Kelvin, as you mentioned, Joe, directly related to the amount of heat present inside of a parcel of air. Thus, it is useful for diagnosing atmospheric instability.
By the way,
So if the atmosphere is unstable, go to your theta A.
By the way, if you'd like, you can buy a parcel of Joe and Joe Weather Show air, and we'll send you that parcel via FedEx for a nominal six-figure fee. So,
Yes.
all right, let's go to the I got the Eastern satellite loop up, and it's got the lightning flashes going on, and of course this supposed mesoscale convective complex really, we saw that yesterday on the radar, Joe, was split in two. It really didn't amount to very much at all. Some areas in southern Pennsylvania down into West Virginia and Virginia got some thunderstorms out of it this morning. I saw some nice pictures of some shelf clouds in southern New Jersey. The northern edge got in there, but gradually all the dry air that was in upstate New York just kind of filtered on down and pushed all the clouds well down to the south. So even the areas today that started out in clouds like southern New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and point southward, and even areas just slightly north of there, they eventually just cleared out and had a very decent day. I'm going to go to the wider view here so we can get the full U.S. and take a look at what's happening with regards to thunderstorm activity elsewhere, as well as clouds. And while that, yeah, okay, it's loading up nicely now. And of course, with all the hot air, there's not a whole lot of thunderstorm activity that's developed at all in the Midwest and in the Ohio Valley, down to the central Gulf states and into East Texas. Very little in the way of thunderstorms. There's a really cool looking line. I always like it. You get into the summertime and things start moving in different directions as opposed to the sort of standard west to east, Joe. There's a line of storms that started out in southeast Georgia, actually extended up to about me in northeast Georgia, and has been moving southwestward all day long. And we should check these out. Joe Rayo is going to check these out on the radar. They are now moving southwestward into The Florida Panhandle, Joe.
All right. Well, we'll get that up in just a moment. Give me some time. My goodness, I only have two hands here,
Yes.
and we'll take a look at the
Uh,
radar are down there.
yes. Let's. I got to hit the secret button here. Wait, the secret.
The
Wait, and when.
secret button.
All right. So I've just hit the secret button, and you should be able to go ahead and share your little heart out.
Lovely. Yes, and I might point out that these showers and storms that you point out, Joe, they're moving from the northeast
Yes.
across the panhandle of Florida, and let's see if I can get that up there for all of you to see. There we go. And it's interesting. Look how the line intensifies or develops over a span of the last 3 hours. Now moving again, as you can see, a dramatic line moving through the northern Florida and the Panhandle area, and again coming in from the north and east. And these are some big boomers, I would presume.
Yes, and Joe,
Yeah,
we should um, Mally Bundles NBMG says the Heart Machine is working good in the South. Well, absolutely. I'm the new South Heart Machine guy. That's why I'm down here in Northeast Georgia to make thunderstorms move backwards. You moron. Next. I have to tell you, quite honestly, I've been thinking about this. I guess maybe as you can relate to this because you and I are roughly the same age. But as you get older, your patience wears a little thin, and you have less and less tolerance for nonsense and for crap. But I've been channeling the late Bob Grant lately, and you know what? I don't blame him. I really don't. He was he used to tear people apart off the wall, and because they used to say stupid stuff. And while some, radio hosts would be polite, he would just let them have it. So from now on, I'm just going to let everybody have it. It's a lot more fun. And you know what? I feel a lot better about myself then. All right, back to the U.S. view. Oh, you got the
I
satellite
brought
view. Keep going.
I brought up the GOES lightning imagery, and you can see, my goodness, look at that line on this view from GOES, again moving from northeast to southwest across not just the panhandle of Florida, but also across Alabama, and they're getting hit pretty good too. Along, I would say Mobile, getting hit with some significant conditions. They have a watch. I'm sure they must have a watch up down there for all of this activity.
Well,
That is.
let me just see what the Storm Prediction Center is telling us at this time. Oh, no, they have no watch box there. They've got no watch box.
You're kidding
And I'm
me.
not seeing, on the radar, Joe. I mean, there's a couple of warnings on my wide radar view. I can see the boxes there's one severe thunderstorm warning and a few special marine warnings. A lot of times these storms, when they do this, they don't always produce a whole lot of wind. It's more, and they're very slow moving. It's usually becomes more of a rain issue than anywhere else. But at least so far, I mean, like I said, it's just a couple. There are two working severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment, one in the Florida Panhandle and the other one on the Alabama side. But then I'm thinking that's probably on I-8 along I-85 south of Montgomery.
Birmingham.
No, Birmingham is further, and it's Montgomery. So yeah, that's moving southwestward. It's actually moving right along the highway. So if you're driving, if you're driving on 85, you're gonna drive the entire length of the thunderstorm, and the thunderstorm is going to be moving with you. So it might take you a while to get out of it. By the way, the other place where there's been some action today, as far as rain is concerned, has been they had to shut down Yellowstone Park, um,
Right.
also known as Jellystone Park, for you Yogi Bear fans. But there's been a lot of heavy rain up in Yellowstone. Now, the rain area this afternoon and evening, and some of this, by the way, is even snow up in northwestern Montana, is fairly extensive from northern Idaho across the state. And it's just been moving very, very slowly. And we've noticed that WPC on their rainfall forecasts have been very bullish with the rainfall amounts up there, and that's going to continue. Otherwise, in the east, it's nice and quiet. We got a couple of showers going on in down east Maine, and that's it. And there's actually a few more stronger cells even on the peninsula of Florida. Most of them are inland, but they are also moving from east to west. But more of the state than less of it is more of that part of the state than has nothing going on as opposed to getting into some showers and thunderstorms. Okay, Storm Prediction Center tonight. Slight risk in South Georgia into the Florida Panhandle. So the South Georgia folks are mostly out of it now. So it's really down in the Florida Panhandle. They got a marginal risk into eastern North Carolina. That unless there's something pops up during the overnight, that should be done. Slight risk also tonight in Nebraska, northeastern Nebraska. There is a severe thunderstorm watch that just went up for parts of central Kansas. And another one up in northern Minnesota. Now for tomorrow, they got a little bit of a change for tomorrow, Joe. They've got a marginal risk. They've got the eastern end of a marginal risk. This is for Wednesday into Thursday. So I'm guessing it's probably more for Wednesday evening or night. The eastern edge of marginal risk just on the Jersey side of the PA-Jersey state line. And then you've got another day of slight risk, as is indicated here, in parts of the southeast, Georgia, Alabama to the Florida Panhandle, kind of a repeat performance of today. Enhanced risk from northeastern Iowa and southeastern Wisconsin across the rest of southeastern Minnesota across the rest of the state of Wisconsin and a little portion of the upper peninsula of Michigan. You can see the slight and marginal risk around that. The next day, which is our day 3 outlook, this is for Thursday into Friday. Slight risk in western New York, western PA, northern West Virginia, eastern Ohio. Marginal risk a little bit further to the east, but doesn't quite make it into the coastal plain from Maine down to South Carolina, Georgia, where you've got mostly general thunderstorm activity. I don't think they had anything going on in the long range, but let me just give it a quick look. And
Well,
on
they did have our day 3 was the equivalent of yesterday's day
right,
4, and they did have that same area of slight outlined yesterday on day 4.
right.
So
So they just basically moved it along. And not predictability too low, day 4 to 8. Rainfall forecast. And this is the old one from this morning, so I'm just going to give it a quick refresh. And it will quickly refresh. And notice, folks, it's pretty dry from Maine down the coastal plain to Georgia with generally a quarter of an inch or less. Heavier amounts of western New York, western PA down the Appalachians from anywhere from a quarter of an inch to some places as much as an inch and a quarter. From Michigan southwestward into Iowa, 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half. The southwest range coming up into parts of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah on the order of, let's say anywhere from as little as a tenth to an inch to some places as much as an inch to an inch and a quarter. Still more rain for across Montana, with some 2-inch plus amounts being indicated. Some of this is going to be front end. Most of this is front end loaded anyway, and some hanging back on up into the Pacific Northwest. So on that note, I saw. I'm going to set up. Let me set this up to let this download. Get the upper air to download, and while it's doing that, I'm going to go to the tellies, do the teleconnections because
okay,
one of the things that caught my eye today on the teleconnections was the fact that now I've got the PNA up, the Pacific North America Index. So measuring pressure changes across the Pacific and North America, you come up with a value, either positive or negative. If it's positive, it's telling you that there's ridging in the western part of the U.S. and troughing in the eastern part of the U.S. I'm giving you a very simplistic description. It's a little more complicated than that and can be, but that's the general view. It favors ridging in the west and troughing in the east. And we have the PNA going negative on the mean. But there is a spread. As you go further out in time, those red lines are all the ensemble members of the models. And as you get further out in time, the variability gets wider. So you've got, mostly half the members are above the mean, half the members are below, but just about all of them are neutral to negative. So that's going to tell you that it's trying to at least indicate that the troughing in the east might not be as pronounced as what we're seeing this weekend. Okay, and the ridging in the west may be more on the flattish side. There might actually be troughing coming into the west coast. Now, what struck me, Joe, was the NAO, which right now is slightly positive. It's going to go negative in a couple of days. It's going to go negative as we go into this weekend, which sort of makes sense with that big upper low dropping down in eastern New England and the trough off the east coast. But what struck me is that how quickly the members go, kind of in these wide ranges. You've got a bunch of them that are positive and a couple of them that are even strongly positive, but then you've got a lot of them that go negative, and they go negative down by, one standard deviation negative or even a little bit more. I would say that kind of tells me that the models are having a little bit of trouble in figuring out what's going to happen much beyond the first half of next week. So we might want to look for a little bit of model volatility as we head into the end of the month as it tries to figure out which way does it want to go with this? Is it going to be more positive? Is it going to be more negative? So we're going to still have, from what I saw overnight on the overnight guidance, Joe, it was telling me that the idea of troughs dropping into the eastern United States, that's going to continue uh, probably through the end of the month and maybe even into the first part of July.
Doesn't I'm not going to argue with that. That would ensure that we would remain in a pattern of near or maybe even below normal temperatures. So while the central part of the nation continues to swelter with extreme heat, one of the few places in the states that, or in this country, that will at least have some tolerable weather will be right here in the northeastern United States. So I would welcome that if that were actually the case. And with that kind of a setup, the flow would be mostly northwest, and that would also mean that we would get a number of days that will be dry. And I
Yes.
know we people want to see a bit of rain, but I mean we've had a bit of rain, but whenever we seem to get rain around here, we get a lot of it in a very short interval of time, and sometimes we have to deal with excessive rain and flooding conditions. But it'd be nice to put together more than just a couple of dry days, and that's the kind of pattern that would set us up for something like that.
Yep. Now here's today. This was at 2 o'clock this afternoon. We have a ridge. We have a closed upper high sitting over Alabama, and the ridge built up to Lake Superior. So there's your heat ridge. And here in the Northeast, with an upper low sitting over Nova Scotia, we got that dry, cooler, well, wasn't really cooler air, but certainly drier air with dew points in the 50s that dropped into the Northeast and now down into the northern mid-Atlantic states. Meanwhile, big cutoff low up in northern Montana with cold air aloft and a lot of energy and a lot of Pacific moisture. Pacific jet is pretty busy with the trough out in the Gulf of Alaska and then another trough that's near the date line. Those are going to continue to move along as we go through the rest of this week and into this weekend. And of course, the big deal is going to be the trough dropping into the eastern part of the United States. That's the Montana low. As it moves eastward, it flattens the ridge out in the Gulf states and then it shifts the ridge westward. So the heat is going to now shift west of the Mississippi and into the plains come this starting probably well, maybe just starting on Friday, but really getting underway Saturday and Sunday, while at the same time, you've got the deep trough dropping down right off the East Coast. And of course, that brings down this lovely, lovely cool air. Now, why is it not due? There it goes. Hey, how did it change to that color? Oh, the things that this map does to me. Go to a fabulous red. Let's see if that works. Oh, hold on. I hit a button here, Joe, and it just kind of screwed
That
things up.
has how many times has happened to us? You're
Oh,
working with a computer, you hit a keystroke, you hit a key that you're unaware that you've hit, and all of a sudden everything changes.
Well, there you go. I just fixed it. Now I got that. Now let me try to get a much more pleasant color to look at because that doesn't look very pretty.
You want me to
Okay.
get my good friend Roy G. Biv to help you?
I have him up right now, but for some
Oh,
reason it's not setting up for me, and my pen is like a mile wide. Ugh. Oh well. Let's see if I can just do it this way. All right, so there's your flow coming up out of Canada, trough into the western part of into the United States. That's actually going to help. There's a tropical system that's going to develop out in the Pacific south of Baja, so that's actually going to help feed in that moisture that we were showing in the Southwest. So this is now for Sunday evening. After that, and this is the new run, so I'm sure it's going to take us on its own little adventure. The eastern trough is going to attempt to lift out. The ridge in the plains flattens again down into the Gulf states. You've got a nice west to east flow across the U.S., basically north of 35 degrees north. Another trough drops into the east for the weekend of the 25th, 26th. And that pulls out. And then you start to see a ridge build into the Ohio Valley and into the northeast, although there's some kind of weird cutoff low that's offshore, so I don't know. I'll just say this, given what I just saw in the teleconnections and what I saw in the overnight run with the ensembles, I'm a little suspicious about the model suddenly deciding that it wants to put a ridge in the eastern part of the United States. I won't, I'm not going to completely dismiss it, but for now, this is where I usually fall on the idea of the trend being your friend. So I'm just going to continue. This pattern will continue until such time that we have evidence to show that the pattern is going to change.
I have nothing to add to that.
Good. Okay, so short range, as we take a look, Joe described it earlier as far as the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states are concerned. Really not much is going to be happening here. Looks like some scattered storms maybe tomorrow evening inland. We've got the first of two cold fronts one Thursday night, which doesn't look especially active on the GFS. The second front comes through on Friday, which is the more important one because that really brings in Friday. I still think will be the hottest day this week, where we'll see temperatures maybe in the mid to upper 80s until the front goes by. And then after that, we've got this beautiful 1027 high over Lake Superior that's just going to settle in. Should be a nice there should be a nice breeze Friday night and Saturday night into
Oh
early.
yeah.
So yeah, it'd be nice breeze. And that dry air,
You
by
know,
the way,
well,
pushes pretty far south.
I don't know if you can call it a nice breeze because there are people who are probably going to be going to any of the coastal beaches. Of course, where would you find a beach but except at the
But except at
coast?
the coast, usually
Yeah.
works out that
I
way.
mean,
Well,
if you're going, if you,
unless you go to a beach on a lake, but technically
yes.
that's
Well,
but technically that's not really a beach.
but what I meant to say was ocean beaches in New Jersey and on Long Island, and maybe on Saturday there'll be a few people who will be complaining about the fact, like, oh, George, it'd be nice. It's such a nice, but it's so windy out here. The sand is blowing, everything's blowing into my face. Let's go home. It may evolve into something like that by
Yeah,
mid-afternoon on Saturday,
and
but then
it also
Sunday,
might bring out the horse flies with the northwest wind on Long Island because you get the wind comes off the bay. But if it's dry, if the dew points are low enough, the horse flies don't really come. They aren't too much of a problem.
okay. What about those green? The horse flies are not the green flies, are
Yeah,
they?
the ones that take huge chunks of flesh out of you.
Yeah. Which are the flies that have like an amber or golden color on their back?
Uh, why? What do they do? Do they like amputate you or something? Or
No, I don't. I've noticed those kind of flies along with the horse flies from time to time.
oh,
Now, I don't know how we got to.
horse flies are the worst. They are the absolute worst. I mean,
Yes.
they really just they're just awful. And as soon as one bites you and makes you bleed, the rest of them come swarming on you. Anyway, let's move on. By the way, the the system in Montana that's pulling out will be pulling out tonight, so the rains should be done. And in fact, you look across the country from Friday through Saturday. For Friday, there's not a whole lot of precip going on. There's precip that starts to generate up in the southwest. So we want the southwest to get rain, okay? But for the most part, there's nothing really to write home about as far as shower and thunderstorms are concerned until maybe there's something dropping down from the Great Lakes Monday night and moving southeastward. And then there's another front later next week, and that's it. There's nothing here that really, there's nothing that really excites me. And of course, the GFS, once again, Joe, trying to make spin up systems in the tropics that may or may not happen. Uh, I'm dubious at the moment as far as whatever the model does with regards to tropical development is concerned.
You see what you got me doing here?
Now you're looking up
I mean,
flies?
instead of looking at something weather or meteorologically related, you had me going to Google and going to horsefly. And here I am reading about horseflies. Horsefly and deerfly adults are vicious biters. They cause livestock to lose weight and may transmit anaplasmosis, anthrax, and other diseases. The nature of this fly makes it impossible to eliminate through simple spraying programs. The only trap which has given any success with biting flies, such as the horsefly, is the advantage fly trap. And now we're talking about blood-sucking fly.
You see, Joe, how I only live to round your education a little bit. That's all.
Yeah.
Just make it a little more well-rounded than it already is.
And I haven't thought about this now in like almost 60 years. Do you remember there was a cartoon? I think it was a Max Fleischer cartoon where it was about horseflies and donkeys, and the horseflies were singing, "Oh, you can't get rid of horseflies and horseflies." Can't be a horsefly, no matter how you.
No, I have to honestly say I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Any of you remember that cartoon? That was that was back. It used to be on Channel 5 every so often, and if I remember correctly, also that the cartoon ended with the horsefly swarming around a mule, and the mother came charging in and grabbed all the horseflies with its tail and swatted them down.
They are evil. I will tell you, they are evil things.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find one of the tropical satellite loops so that at least we could look down in the Southwest Gulf to see what's there, and I finally got one. I mean, there's disturbed weather there. The Hurricane Center still on their latest outlook has a 40% chance of this developing into a tropical system, and they've got an Air Force reconnaissance aircraft scheduled for tomorrow just in case they need it. I'm just running the loop right now. Let me add a few frames just to see if we can see anything.
You see, now we got a fight going on here, Joe.
Why?
We got a fight going on here between the executive producer and me.
Why?
She came running and she said, "You're not talking about horseflies. You're talking about houseflies." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not talking about houseflies. I'm talking about horseflies."
Yeah.
You know what else? You know what else is terrible?
Right.
Midges. You ever encounter a midge?
No.
Little tiny flies. They come out in like April and May. Those are hard.
Yeah,
no.
Well. Insects usually don't bother me too much.
Midge was also Barbie, the doll Barbie. Mm-hmm. The very first friend that she had was Midge.
Gotcha.
That's back in the early 60s. Mix and match is fun to do with Barbie and Ken.
Oh,
and now
God.
Me too.
Oh my God.
By the way,
but he started it with the horsefly.
By the way, tell the executive producer that on the other Wordle game that I'm playing, I got a word on the first try.
Oh wow!
Yes, the word. It was one of my starter words, and it was crane, and it was actually very cool to see the letters turn all green one after another. I've gotten 4 before, 4 letters green, and then I got twice where I got the word spelled backwards. Was all the 5 letters, but it was It was jumbled. I think
Well, here's a new one for you. Maria, our daughter, sent me the link for it. It's called Wordle, where you're
yes,
doing
I saw a few people.
Wordle at the same time. I
Yeah,
did
no,
that this evening.
yeah,
That's
no,
fun.
yeah, I'm not doing that.
No, it's doable. It's doable. Try it.
Maybe all right. If I feel brave, I will try it. We're back full screen now. By the
Yes.
way.
A couple of weeks ago, the word on Wordle was tiara,
Yes.
and she got it in three tries. Then I called my sister, and I said, "Did you do Wordle yet?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, if you do, it's going to be your crowning glory." And she got the hint, and she got tiara. She plugged tiara in and was declared a Wordle genius, which I'm sure you were declared.
Yes, I was
on the
also
first try.
declared a genius. Okay, our harp lady just left a message, but it's in a foreign language and I don't understand it. So I no. Here's another one. Is that the same one? Oh no, it's a different one. Let's see.
I think it's my turn for Briller Jeopardy
Yeah, I
tonight.
think it is too.
Correct?
Yeah, I'm just having, yeah, that's it. Yeah, go ahead. There's nothing exciting about that message. But I did see, by the way, that David Schwartz reported on the chat board that with regards to that whole Celsius Fahrenheit conversation, that the two nations of Libya and Myanmar are going to be abandoning the old, what we're doing, and then going to just the metric.
Okay.
Okay, just
that leaves us standing alone.
You learn something new every day on this show. Okay, so go ahead. You got it. So let's have it. Briller Jeopardy. Scott's taking his show on the road, and he's going to be gone for a few weeks and back sometime next month. So in the meantime, shoot.
He says this is going to be the final Briller Jeopardy for a while as he hits the road next week. But don't be sad. Briller Jeopardy will return mid-July. I thought that I would give Joe and Chatboard a sampling of my questions for the road. So here's the first one. Number one, the first box of Crayola crayons was produced in 1903. What were the original 8 colors?
I'll say red, green, blue, yellow, black, brown, white, and pink or cyan.
Well, actually, white was not among the first 8 colors.
Right.
It's and I gave you a hint before. I said Roy G. Biv. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Now, I think that's violet.
Okay.
Or actually, no, indigo. No, Biv, blue, indigo, and violet. So indigo, I don't know what indigo is. That's salmon, or ink, or
I forgot.
Well, anyway,
I'm colorblind anyway.
Red, orange, green, blue, yellow, violet, brown, and black.
Yes, Christina Pedia's got. She put up the list too. She put up red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, black, and white. So you said white was not among them.
Not among the ones that he has on his list.
All right, next question.
What was the first toy advertised on television? Multiple choice. Was it A, Slinky, Slinky, B, Lincoln Logs, C, Barbie, not including Midge, and D, Mr. Potato Head?
I'm going to say Mr. Potato Head. That's the first, when you started the question, that's the first thing that popped into my head. So I'm going to say Mr. Potato Head.
And you would be correct, D. In fact, if I remember correctly, they actually told you to take the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. You could put it on a real potato, not just the one that they supplied with the set. But any case, and the voice is done, of course, by Don Rickles.
Yes.
Number 3, what was the last TV theme to hit number 1 on the Billboard Top 100? Again, multiple choice. Was it Welcome Back, Cotter, the theme from Miami Vice, or the theme from Cheers? The last one to hit the Billboard Top 100.
I don't remember the theme of Cheers being, a song that was played on the radio, so I'm going to throw that one out. Miami Vice's Open was an instrumental.
Yes,
I
I
think
think so.
I think the Welcome Back. I know the Welcome Back Cotter one went like the number one for a week or two. Uh, I'll say the Welcome Back Cotter one.
You are wrong, Cotter
Uh,
Brett. It
what
was
was it?
the Miami
Miami
Vice theme.
Vice? Okay, well that was my other choice. So
Yeah. All right, number 4. What box office star has the record for the most consecutive movies grossing over $100 million? The record is 8. And here's your multiple choice. Which box office star has the most consecutive record movies grossing over $100 million? Is it A, Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, B, Tom Hanks, C, Harrison Ford, or D, Will Smith?
you know what? These are all actors that involve movies that were done in the last 20 years. So I really, I'll say Will Smith.
And that's right. I'm not even going to slap you for that. You are correct. It
Yes.
is Will Smith. Number 5, what is the longest running show on Broadway ever? Is it A, Cats, B, Chorus Line, C, Chicago, or D, Phantom of the Opera?
I'm sorry. Repeat the question.
The longest running show ever on Broadway.
Oh my
A,
God.
Cats, B, A Chorus Line, C, Chicago, or D, Phantom of the Opera?
Well, as far as Cats is concerned, I went to see it, and it was the longest 8 hours of my life, and that was just the first act. It was the most I don't. It was the most god awful thing I've ever seen, and I loved go. I like musicals, and if they have a story to them, I've been to my fair share of my fair share of Broadway plays over the years. So it's not like you're taking somebody who's never been to Broadway before. I always felt that Cats were, you know, that was considered to be Broadway maybe for people that come into New York and visit. They would go to see Cats. They were far better plays. I know Cats ran forever, so it's either that or Phantom of the Opera. So I'll say Phantom of the Opera.
Congratulations, you are correct. Phantom of the Opera. And I got to tell you something. The other day, I think I mentioned this yesterday. On Sunday, I caught the I Love Lucy episode with Bob Hope. And Bob mentioned something while they were at the Club Babalu. And I didn't even, I guess all of these years, it just went over my head or I just didn't understand it. But when I watched it on Sunday, I understood. He made a mention to Gower and Marge. And I knew immediately that he was making a reference to Marge and Gower Champion, who had tremendous success on Broadway with a number of musicals in the 1950s. And I didn't realize that, all the years I saw that episode, but he did slip it in while they were doing that dance, that baseball dance at Ricky's Club Babalu. So
Oh, that's interesting.
Marge and Gower Champion, and that was a very sad thing. I don't know if you remember, Joe. Gower Champion brought back 42nd Street on Broadway in the 1980s, and on opening night, he died.
Oh,
And the producer or director of the show, after the show was over, the first show, he came out and he announced, and I have some bad news. Gower Champion died today, and everybody in the audience roared with laughter. They thought it was a joke, and he said, "No, it's not. I'm sorry to tell you, Gower Champion died today." And like a hush fell over the theater, and he apparently was a great playwright. Again, he and his wife great in musicals and dancing and everything else. And well, anyway, I don't know how I got into that. And that was the last question, actually. Longest running show on Broadway ever. You got it right, Phantom of the Opera.
all right. Two things I want to bring up. This Fowlerite sent me a message on Twitter. This was pretty interesting. They had those tornadoes up near where she is in northern Kansas, and there was an issue with the timing with the warnings there because many people didn't get them until the tornado had passed. So it appears that they had to do with the Weather Service radar scan rate. They were because the Weather Service budget was underfunded to allow for more frequent scan rates of 80 seconds versus the usual 7 minutes. Had they switched to 80 seconds, they could have picked up a rotation and issued the warning sooner. And that might have been the same problem that occurred with the tornado up in Gaylord, Michigan. That's an interesting, they're always fighting for budgets here, left and right. So apparently they got the funding, some funding now, or from what they had back from the prior fiscal year. So, they work in the federal government when it came to budgets. It's a very, very complex process. Let's just put it that way. And also, just want to mention as well, where was it? EF5 Weather was asking about whether the thunderstorms up in North Dakota were whether they said that was a derecho or not today. I don't know. The ones this morning, I don't know. I didn't see anything EF5 Weather regarding that. I'll look around a little bit later after the show if that's the case, but at least so far I didn't really see anything. So, Leon Probitsky just hitting super chat. Thank you, Leon. And he's got the looks like a hippo.
Get good.
Get good. Okay, well, we'll do that. All right. I think that we can call it a night. We want to call it a night?
Yeah, I'm going to go out and swat a few horseflies.
By all means, please do. And thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. Sorry for the late start, but, stuff happens. And we will be back tomorrow night at our usual time, which is 7:30 Eastern time. So we will see you then. Good night, everybody.
That's right. Yes. Good night.